DARPA and the Navy are working overtime to reduce the number of seamen on ships. Imagine a future where there's no captain on the bridge, no sailors to feed, no damage control party, just one big empty self-steering slab of steel with sensors, a comms link, and maybe a couple missiles on board. That's the dream DARPA's been chasing for over a decade, and the Navy is now quietly bringing it to life. Today we're going to talk about DARPA's drone boats, or unmanned surface vessels, USVs, from prototype to Pacific deployment, and how the Navy is preparing for a future of robotic warfare at sea. We're going to look at where we came from, what we are doing now, and what we have planned for the immediate future. A future where some ships sail without humans, and others just have a lot fewer of them. The Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, or DARPA, is the Pentagon's mad science wing. They're the ones who turned wild ideas like stealth aircraft, GPS, and even the internet into battlefield and commercial staples. And for the last, give or take 15 years, they've been trying to get seamen off of ships. It started in earnest in 2010 with a program called ACTIVE, which was the Anti-Submarine Warfare Continuous Trail Unmanned Vessel. It wasn't armed and it didn't look like a traditional warship. ACTIVE was a trimaran hull, 132 feet long, with an aluminum frame and a composite superstructure. The result from all of this work was Sea Hunter, and it launched in 2016. Sea Hunter's mission was simple but groundbreaking. Trail enemy submarines across the ocean for months at a time without a single human on board. It used radar, sonar, GPS, and advanced autonomy software to navigate and avoid collisions in open water. During early testing off San Diego, it demonstrated continuous autonomous operation for over 5,000 nautical miles, with Navy observers tracking its performance. DARPA confirmed it could operate for 90 days without refueling. And it worked, at least well enough for DARPA to hand the program off to the Navy. That handoff led to something bigger with a much cooler name, Ghost Fleet Overlord. Before we get started, we want to thank Odoo for sponsoring today's episode. If you're still managing your business with a mess of spreadsheets, sticky notes, and a patchwork of apps, stop the chaos. Odoo brings it all under one roof with a unified business management system that covers everything from sales to shipping to the shop floor. Odoo gives you full control over inventory and manufacturing from a single dashboard. You can track receipts, deliveries, point of sales orders, and work orders in real time. You'll see exactly what's moving, what's delayed, and what needs attention. You can automate vendor reminders, schedule shipments, scan components with a mobile barcode app, and update worksheets or bills of material on the fly. Whether you're running one warehouse or 10, Odoo keeps your operation fast, accurate, and fully connected. The best part though, everything talks to everything. Sales, e-commerce, CRM, inventory, manufacturing. It's one connected system, not a Frankenstein of bolt-on. So if you're done taping your business together with whatever software you can find, head over to odoo.com. Your first app is free. No trial, no credit card, no nonsense. You've got a business to run. Let Odoo make it easier. Ghost Fleet Overlord is the Navy's proving ground for unmanned surface vessels, or USVs. It's where DARPA's weird science becomes something that might actually deploy with the fleet. The Navy, DARPA, the Strategic Capabilities Office, and industry partners are all in on this one. Sea Hunter and its follow-on Sea Hawk are the workhorses, at least for now. They've autonomously sailed thousands of miles and even transited the Panama Canal under their own control. The Navy also operates the Ranger and the Mariner, which are two converted oil rig support ships in its Ghost Fleet. These sister ships are 194 feet long and displace just over 14,000 tons fully loaded. They're currently just a test bed, but they're equipped with redundant systems and even have a watered-down version of Aegis on board. Aegis, if you don't know, is an air and missile defense system originally designed under the Strategic Defense Initiative in the 1980s and is now putting in work all over the world. In 2021, the Navy completed a fully autonomous transit and even test-fired Standard missiles during a major Pacific Fleet exercise. Just this last January, they successfully used the ships to conduct a replenishment at sea of a ship carrying the same systems as the USX-1, which we will discuss in more detail in just a moment. I think it's pretty clear, and a lot of you will probably agree in the audience, but if you don't, that's okay, that this is a significant capability. Being able to use robot ships to resupply other robot ships means theoretically that we could have entire fleets out in the ocean without a human being really being involved. Sadly, however, this also means that sailors will no longer get to shoot a shot line, and robots are taking all of the fun jobs. But even though these boats can sail themselves, the Navy's not quite ready to fully cut the cord. According to Navy officials at a May 2025 Industry Day, future USVs will almost certainly include small onboard teams, like maintenance crews, mission specialists, or even just people there to satisfy legal and operational requirements. The Navy just isn't quite ready to quit seamen. So they're not quite ghost ships, they're more like low maintenance roommates that still need to be babysat, at least for now. Meanwhile, DARPA is really working hard to get seamen off ships with a project called NOMARS, which is short for No Manning Required Ship. Just this last March, a 180-foot, 240-ton unmanned surface vessel called the USX-1 Defiant was launched in Washington State and is currently undergoing testing. Unlike the Ranger, Mariner, and other USVs, the Defiant was designed from the keel up to operate without any crew. This means there is no bridge, hatches, walkways, sleeping quarters, chow halls. Basically, all the accommodations on a ship that are designed around humans don't need to exist because this ship is designed to operate without humans. The boat, and yes, I think that this would be a boat and not a ship based on its size and all sorts of maritime gatekeeping unwritten rules, like a boat becomes a ship when it can carry another boat. Actually, maybe it is a ship because it can sail open waters on its own. I don't know, but I'm sure somebody out in the comments will correct me, as always. But anyways, this boat is powered by a hybrid diesel-electric system to give it endurance and relatively quiet operation. It uses redundant components like other USVs, so if one system fails, it reroutes to a backup, allowing it to stay fully mission capable at sea for long periods. The deck, at least what is speculated about the deck, because imagery is still pretty hard to come by, is thought to be designed to accommodate containerized systems like launchers, different electronic warfare suites, drones, and maybe even cargo. It isn't armed, at least not yet, but it is built with the idea that it will be armed much like the Ranger and Mariner. Since it will have no crew, it could take on higher risk missions that we may not want to throw our crewed ships into. So who might use something like NOMARS and what can it do? And for this, we kind of have to think outside of the box. The Marine Corps might use uncrewed logistic vessels to resupply forces at remote island outposts or to keep the skies clear of enemy aircraft leading up to landing operations. The Air Force and even Space Force, because they exist too, could deploy NOMARS ships as sensor platforms for missile warning. The Coast Guard, and yes, the Coast Guard, could send them into hurricane zones or drug interdiction corridors. This really is an incredible capability that has the potential to change the entire Navy's approach to dominating the oceans. Still, there are limits, both technical and ethical. Technically, full autonomy is hard. The ocean is a particularly unforgiving place. Salt water wreaks havoc on electronics and surfaces, and I know we've all seen the ships coming back into port with rust all over them, and then people on the internet are like, oh my god, how are the ships so rusty? It's because it's been at sea for months on end, and sailors, believe it or not, when they're shooting down Houthi drones and missiles in the Red Sea, have better things to do than scrub boats. But anyways, communication links can also go down, and the rules of the road at sea can be complicated. And ethically, there are serious questions about arming a fully autonomous warship, especially one making lethal decisions without a human on board. That's why even DARPA acknowledges that human-in-the-loop oversight is here to stay, at least for now. And honestly, a skeleton crew may not be the worst idea. Even if it's just 2 or 3 people on board, they can handle edge cases, conduct maintenance, and provide judgment in ways that a machine just can't. It also probably wouldn't be a bad thing to be stuck on one of these ships with like, maybe not 2 or 3, but like 10 or 15 people. Because typically in the military, when you're with a smaller group, all the dumb bull gets reduced to a very low level. It's when you're close to the flagpole or whatever the Navy equivalent is, the command ship, that things get particularly stupid. Robot ships might fix that too. But keeping people on ships can be especially important when you're talking about missile-laden boats packed with next-gen tech. A human presence isn't just reassuring, it's a hedge against disaster. Beneath all those robotic surface ships will be a growing fleet of unmanned undersea vehicles, or UUVs. Let's start with what might be the most famous of them, the Manta Ray. Developed by DARPA and Northrop Grumman, the Manta Ray is a long-endurance autonomous glider, roughly the size of a school bus, designed to hibernate on the seafloor months before waking up to run missions. Its modular design allows for diverse payloads like imaging sonar, signal intelligence, underwater comms relays, maybe weapons. Some concepts even envision it deploying smaller drones or acting as a covert sensor node. Most importantly though, it does not need a submarine or a ship to deploy. You just roll it off a pier or a barge, and that makes it a low-cost way to pre-position capabilities in the Pacific or other denied areas, any just general places that are too risky or remote for manned submarines. But Manta Ray, as cool as it is just one part of the picture. The Navy is also developing the Orca XL UUV with Boeing. It's bigger, more modular, and built for even longer missions, potentially weeks or months at a time. Orca's primary roles include mine laying, ISR, and strike missions, and the Navy is set to receive their first Orca this year. At least their first real one, because the previous ones were just test beds and prototypes. Then there's the Snakehead, a large UUV designed for launch and recovery from Virginia-class subs with a focus on ISR and mine warfare. This was canceled back in 2022, but then they took another look at it and restarted it in 2024, and they're currently pushing ahead. Together, these UUVs give the Navy persistent, stealthy eyes and ears, and potentially weapons underwater without risking a manned platform. They're not replacing submarines, but they will complement them in ways that we have never seen before. Above the waterline, another system is quietly reshaping the Navy's future, the MQ-25 Stingray. This uncrewed aerial refueler is being developed by Boeing to launch and land from U.S. aircraft carriers. Its main job is to extend the range of manned fighters, like the F-18 and F-35, by hundreds of miles without risking large aircraft like the beleaguered KC-46. This might not sound all that flashy, but it is a game changer. With MQ-25, the Navy can keep its manned jets farther from enemy shore-based missiles and operate in more dispersed strike packages. The MQ-25 sets the precedent for uncrewed air wings operating from carriers, with the next logical step being carriers launching drones that do ISR, electronic warfare, or even strike missions. Eventually, and I say eventually because I shouldn't be saying eventually, we should be working on this, and we kind of are, but anyways, we may see drone carriers, which are ships purpose-built to operate swarms of autonomous aircraft. The Chinese and Turks are already doing this, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to crawl down this rabbit hole for a video soon, so consider this a teaser, a sneak peek, or whatever you want to call it. So here is why all of this matters. Traditional Navy ships, as we well know, are expensive, slow to build, and manpower intensive. We broke this down in our Navy budget video, which I'll link in one of these corners, I don't know, that you can watch, but here's some quick math just to kind of drive the point home. An Arleigh Burke-class destroyer costs over $2.2 billion to build. Now imagine you lose one, and it's not just a tactical loss, but it's a strategic and a political nightmare. Plus, imagine like the Houthis sinking an Arleigh Burke somehow. What that would do for their propaganda? would be pretty remarkable. Uncrewed and lightly crewed vessels completely flip that script. You can deploy more of them, and you can lose them without making headlines necessarily, although the first uncrewed ship to be sunk will probably be a big headline, but not quite as 600 sailors die in the Red Sea after an Arleigh Burke gets sunk, but anyways. You can use them for dangerous missions that no admiral would really want to risk $1 billion warship on. You can upgrade them faster, operate them in tighter formations, and flood the battle space with so many targets your enemy has to waste time and resources figuring out. And in the Pacific, where distance, denial, and long-range missiles dominate, this might be the only viable way to stay in the fight. DARPA's drone boats are not just prototypes anymore, they're the seeds of a new kind of navy. They're faster, leaner, more distributed, and harder to kill. But, as always, don't expect a fully autonomous fleet overnight. This isn't Skynet with sails, it's a careful, incremental shift towards selective autonomy, with humans still making the big calls, thankfully. Chances are that we'll be diving deeper into Ghost Fleet Overlord, NOMARS, Manta and drone carriers in future videos, so hit subscribe if you want to stay up on that and anything else that I climb down a rabbit hole on. And let us know in the comments how you feel about uncrewed ships and robot warfare in general. Would you trust an uncrewed warship with your life, or would you rather just put a skeleton crew on the bleeding edge? Do you think the Navy will be able to do this effectively? Do you think that enemies will just be able to climb up on the ships and take it over whenever they want? Whatever you got, let us know in the comments. I wrote this script and Savvy edited the video. Today I'm wearing a shirt from Ryan Hendrickson's landmine removal nonprofit called Tip of the Spear Landmine Removal. Ryan Hendrickson is a Green Beret veteran that came over our task and purpose radar a few years ago when he was going over to Ukraine by himself to demine civilian areas from the war. Now, he didn't send me this shirt and he doesn't know that I'm plugging his nonprofit in, but if you want one, you can go to landmineremoval.org and buy them. I think they're $30, and it all goes to a pretty good cause that, regardless of how you feel politically, I'd like to think most of us could agree that civilians should not have to worry about stepping on landmines and blowing themselves up. So shout out to Ryan, his whole team now, because he leads whole teams over there. So all the money that you spend buying these shirts, and yes, I did buy the shirt, I didn't get it sent, goes to help him do that. So if you want to, once again, it's landmineremoval.org. And if you want some of the other shirts that Task and Purpose makes, go to store.taskandpurpose.com and use code actually watched for 10% off because you watched to the end of the video and listened to my nonsense long enough. So there's your reward. Anyways, I'm all done talking. So I'm Kyle, your friendly ginger producer man. You are all dismissed, and I will see you next time.